My art practice is heavily based on observing my surroundings, the urban landscapes, the hustle and bustle of city life, and various aspects of Filipino culture. I tend to capture the random, unique, and mundane things of everyday life, places, scenes, and objects, images. And then I recreate them in painting form or my mixed media artworks, using found objects, using their everyday ready-mades, and thus creating new contexts and new meanings. These observations are, of course, through the lens of someone like myself, coming from a mixed cultural background, being half Belgian, Filipino, and living in various countries in my formative years. I think this allows me to kind of have a different viewpoint, and it's kind of like a viewpoint of a semi-outsider looking in and being able to kind of, I guess, examine things in a different light and show things in a different light that otherwise would just go maybe unnoticed or ignored. Usually also in my body of work, there seems to be a tendency of having a lot of witty or humor aspects behind it. I think that's just kind of the nature of who I am as a person. And maybe it's also a way of kind of poking fun at certain things or being able to explain certain things in a light manner instead of being all serious. For this exhibit, I wanted something kind of completely different from my previous works. I think coming off of the past 2 years where everything happened back to back to back, I felt like I didn't know if I really wanted to make a whole other serious painting show again. I think also it was, to be honest, it was a point in my life where I wasn't really thinking about art anymore. I think we were all distracted by everything that's been happening, and so yeah, the least thing in my mind was actually painting. I didn't really have that luxury of just staying home and painting because I had to deal with other things in life. Also dealing with the flooding in 2020, the Typhoon Ulysses. So kind of I had to deal with everything in the household, dealing with the repairs and everything. So my mind was just completely elsewhere. And I think that's kind of where the birth of this show came from. I kind of wanted a distraction from all of that. And I thought the best way to do that would be through one of my series, the hot dog series, which is, I thought, kind of embodied that whole ridiculousness of everything going on in the world. And yeah, I thought what better way to do it than now. I never really had a full show of hot dogs. I worked on the series off and on since 2013, but I thought this was a perfect chance to make an entire show of this and really embody that whole, or embrace that whole idea of the ridiculousness. So the hot dog itself is made out of wood. There's wood carvings and then painted afterwards. And then I combine them with found objects, ready-mades, to create different combinations, different versions of them, different iterations. And I felt like this idea was kind of, it was endless. I could make everything a hot dog in a sense, right? Everything was kind of viewed as a hot dog for me. The hot dog kind of served as a metaphor for different things. They also kind of served as a satirical tool to kind of explain different situations, scenarios, feelings that's going on in the world right now, especially here in the Philippines. And yeah, I kind of wanted to kind of show life in the past 2 years, life post-pandemic or during the pandemic. And this is kind of it. That's why I created this show entitled Welcome to the Dog Show, to kind of embrace that whole chaos and ridiculous nature of it all. This show can generally be grouped in like 3 main divisions. You have my assemblage work, which is kind of a link to my previous works with assemblages and boxes using, again, found objects and different surfaces. So for instance, here I had rice sacks, I had vinyl tablecloths, all kind of representative, of course, of food and survival. Also, a lot of this had to do with, since being in the pandemic, my life has become so domesticated, like dealing with household chores, dealing with groceries, dealing with all domestic things, ordering food, making food, cooking. So a lot of it had to kind of reflect on these materials being used. The second grouping was the shelved sculptures. These were kind of more of a, I guess, minimal in a sense, and they incorporate a lot of found objects that I got from either Japan surplus stores or leftover pieces from Dapitan arcade, which is another area that has a lot of goods, usually for export. And these were kind of the rejects, so I accumulated a lot of these things throughout the years and managed to finally kind of incorporate it into several pieces. The kind of whole look of it is very interior based, I guess. It's kind of a reflection also on me dealing with having to redo my house after the flooding. So a lot of the interior design had to be redone, a lot of the furniture and everything had to be redone. So it kind of embodied that whole feeling as well. And then I guess, yeah, thirdly would be these wall-bound sculptures, which are kind of standalone in a sense. One of them is entitled Shelf Life. And this one is quite a personal piece. And it's very reflective, I guess, of the past 2 years being under lockdown and kind of slowly easing our way, easing restrictions. And the whole idea of clamps, using different various forms of clamps, is kind of indicative of that we've all kind of been clamped down, we've been tied down, we've been locked down. And slowly easing our way out again.